and welcome. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Tonight, Acting Vice President Yemi Osinbajo gives assurance of federal government's commitment towards achieving a more developed and peaceful environment in oil-producing states. Oni of Ife, Oba Adeyeye Ogunsi, calls for stronger collaboration between government and traditional institutions as a way of boosting national unity. Federal government raises alarm over the presence of a terrorist cell planning to wreak havoc in several parts of the country. And Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta declares the drought, which has affected as much as half of the country, a national disaster.
And on business news tonight, PricewaterhouseCoopers chief economist says Nigeria's $1 billion Eurobond is not sufficient for the country. On sports news tonight, $50,000 up for grabs. The second edition of the Lagos City Marathon gets underway tomorrow.
I am Maokpe Ogun, and from Abuja, the Supreme Court of Nigeria dismisses the appeal filed by Senator Uche Ekwunife challenging the nullification of her election for lack of jurisdiction.
The acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, has given the assurance of the federal government's readiness to draw a roadmap that will lead to a more developed and peaceful environment in the oil-producing states of the Niger Delta. Professor Osinbajo announced this during an interaction with traditional rulers and other leaders in Yenagoa shortly after arriving in the state for a one-day visit. The acting president is in the state to discuss how to achieve lasting peace in the region that would boost crude oil production and improve the welfare of the people.
This is not his final destination. Acting President Professor Yemi Osinbajo is only having a stopover at the Port Harcourt International Airport in Magwa on his way to Bayelsa State. On arrival in Yenagoa, the Bayelsa state capital, the acting president went on to a state heliport for commissioning. Next is a meeting with traditional rulers in the state. Here, various pertinent issues form part of the discussions, from pipeline vandalism and militancy to resource control. But in all, the state governor, Siriake Dixon, maintains that despite all the odds, Bayelsa State remains one of the most peaceful states in the country.
So your visit here is to show that we are to reiterate again that we are all together speaking with one voice, that the Niger Delta needs a lot of development to tally with the extent of contribution.
Professor Osinbajo then assures them of even development with other oil-producing states of the Federation.
Let us have a chamber of commerce of the young men and women who are here. In that council, we can identify those involved in technology, in agriculture, in oil and gas, in manufacturing, and the professions. A chamber of commerce properly organized will attract the right kind of local and international partnerships and even funding. And I want to say that I'm prepared to work with you on that. A guarantee of a future well-being is to act today. It's time to set our sights on a great future for our people. It is time to do the hard work that is required. And I want to assure you that President Buhari and the government of the Federation today is prepared to work with the people of the Niger Delta, prepared to work with the people of this state to ensure that we bring development here and to the entire Delta region.
After all deliberations, residents are left with hopes of better things in the offing for Bayelsa State.
To discuss peace efforts in the Niger Delta, as well as the acting president's visit, I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by a former speaker of the Delta State House of Assembly, Mr. Victor Oche. He joins me from Abuja. Thanks for joining us on the news at 10.
Yeah, thank you, Ijoma. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, we've seen the acting president in Delta State, Bayelsa State. You're an indigene yourself, of the Niger Delta area. What are you hearing about how indigents perceive this approach, this mediatory approach, if you like?
Thank you. The approach by the vice president, for me, is very, very practical, pragmatic in the sense that there must be constructive engagement. Now he's there, and there's a commitment on the side of the presidency to show that they are ready to tackle the issues of the Niger Delta. And the first thing to do is to enter into constructive engagement with the people right down there in the area, living right in the area, with the traditional rulers who are custodians of their culture and their customs, and of course the stakeholders who also who sit right there where the nation's wealth is produced. Now, the issues there are, I believe, the way he's going about it, people are receptive to it, but then they should go a little bit deeper. I believe he has set the template. The other agencies like the Ministry of Niger Delta should take advantage of that and go in there and do the needful. You also have other interventionist agencies like the Niger Delta Development Commission. This is the time for them to cash in on this situation and ensure that the lasting peace is gotten, and ensure that the platform for the conversation being created by the presidency is taken deeper than it is.
Yeah, there have been conversations before. What do you think should be done differently this time around? We have had parley's discussions, with stakeholders, as you mentioned earlier. How can it be different this time?
Okay, this time around, a discussion has been opened up. I expect the Ministry of the Niger Delta, for instance, you must have what you call a Niger Delta master plan for development. Now, if you put this gazetted, now people understand the Niger Delta states, each of them have their own peculiarities. You need to deal with these states, their developments, with the peculiarities that affect them individually, and deal with them as issues on their own. And then go on beyond that, ensure that interventionist agencies like NDDC and other interventionist agencies, or programs that the federal government does have, are targeted at ensuring that you develop the area. Now, when you bring development in that area, one thing you're going to ensure is that you ensure that people get engaged, meaningfully engaged. The IOCs that have a lot of things happening around there also ensure that the local content is given to people right down there who their lands have been, there's environmental degradation, their lands are devastated. You need to start making them be part and parcel of what is happening around them, not just center it around a few people. Now, you must expand the conversation to bring in more people on board, not people who posture as all the time the owners, or when you discuss issues of the Niger Delta, come to position themselves as those who are the Niger Delta people. No, there are other stakeholders. You must broaden that scope so that people can come on board to engage in the conversation. The undergraduates, those who are yet to get into school, those who are graduated and don't have employment, everybody who has one thing or the other to offer. The area God-given, the gift God has given them, they must be part and parcel of that gift by everybody being able to do one thing or the other, contribute in a meaningful way to ensuring that development comes there, and then you see a long-lasting peace because everybody will be meaningfully engaged and will guard jealously that means of their livelihood.
Now, you've talked about expanding the conversation. Let's look at the conversation that they had today. I'll draw your attention to what the Minister of State for Petroleum said, and he said we lose $80 billion to militant attacks every year. So we're looking at militancy and the groups that are agitating, and that's how much money we're losing. So beyond just coming to talk about it, what can be done, immediately?
Yes, now, what I believe can be done immediately are a couple of things. One, first and foremost, who are these militants who go blowing up these pipelines? It's not the poor people who live in the area who are looking for a means to make a living out of life. It's the same set of people who have benefited from the same contracts all the time. But this time around, sit down, let us sit down at the table. Let us understand what is it that you want that we can make these things work better. Okay, if you're not going to do it, make it competitive for other people to also understand that, listen, if I'm from the Niger Delta, you are out there blowing the pipes, I cannot benefit, you cannot benefit, but because you benefited before, you don't feel the pains that I feel. So if you expand the conversation and other people come on board, then it becomes easier to deal with. Now, it has to be our own problem localized. Those of us from the Niger Delta, we have to sit down and tell each other the truth. We are the losers in all of this. Federal government, yes, loses a lot of money, but we are the bigger losers. Because at the end of the day, what's agreeable to us does not come. And then if we continue the destruction of the pipes, of course, we also lose because the federal government loses, we lose at the same time. So we are losing in two ways. Our lands are gone. We can't fish in our waters. We can't navigate the waters easily. Then, of course, we suffered a great deal. What I believe should be done right now and should be done quickly, fine. Who were those, when we had the peace, what were we doing to have the peace? Look at those issues vis-a-vis what we have today. Put them on the table, and then we can have a dialogue. If we have this dialogue, there must be give and take. You don't expect everything to happen, everything you want to be handed over to you. I don't believe in the cries who and cries of marginalization, because I believe that we can also develop our own if we sit down to draw, okay, fine. If this is what you want, articulate them so that we can, the federal government will have what you have articulated to say this is what you want, and let's work out a means of ensuring that whatever you want is done quickly. But I do not subscribe to a particular set of persons positioning themselves to be the custodians of every good, every contract that comes out with good that goes into the area in the name of development, and it's called agitation for Niger Delta in quote. We all are Niger Deltans. We have to sit down and address the issue, and then we can move on from there. But I believe first and foremost, come out for a meaningful engagement. It's constructive already. The Vice President has set the tone. It is now time to take it broken down and let everybody who we believe is a stakeholder come, sit down on the table, and let us say this is the way forward.
All right.
It doesn't, we can discuss anything else, but we must allow peace to reign while these discussions go on.
All right, the former Speaker of the Delta State House of Assembly, Mr. Victor Uche, thanks for sharing your thoughts with us on the news at 10 tonight. The traditional ruler of Ife, Oba Adeyeye Ogunwusi, is calling for stronger collaboration between government and traditional institutions for national unity. He's also appealing to traditional rulers to promote Nigeria's cultural heritage, which he describes as the strongest force that holds Nigeria as one nation. The monarch made these appeals in Abuja while speaking to participants of Course 25 of the National Defense College.
The Oni of Ife arrives at the National Defense College with his royal entourage. He inspects the guard of honor and proceeds to the hall to deliver a lecture on the role of traditional institutions in national security. The commandant of the National Defense College, in his welcome remarks, stresses the importance of the lecture in the face of current security challenges.
The lecture today is therefore capable of opening up a new insight into the potentials for revitalizing our social and security architecture through the traditional institutions. This lecture is not only apt and timely, it is by design a subject at the heart of Nigeria's contemporary realities.
The guest lecturer, the Oni of Ife, focuses on how traditional institutions can help solve security challenges. The monarch emphasizes the need for government at all levels to engage the traditional rulers to enhance national unity.
To make your job easier, I think we should all need to work together. We should all need to work together in harmony for us to take this country to another level. If they need to get to people very fast in this country, you need to go through traditional institutions.
He also appeals to traditional rulers to promote cultural heritage rather than religion, which he says has divided Nigeria.
What is binding us together is very fundamental, and that is our culture, our heritage, and our tradition. Religion will continue to divide us.
This is the 5th lecture in 1 week for participants of course 25 of the National Defense College. It is hoped that the lessons learned will equip these officers in whose hands the security of the country rests.